By the late 19th century, Blackwood Manor had already been abandoned for nearly 50 years. It stood alone on the northern moor, its towers swallowed by fog and its stone walls strangled by dead ivy that had long since turned the color of ash. The path leading to it was little more than a forgotten strip of cracked stone, half buried in wild grass and mud. Locals avoided it without needing to explain why. Some claimed it was cursed. Others simply said that people who entered the manor did not come back the same, if they came back at all. Isabella had heard the stories since childhood, but stories were precisely what drew her there. As a young scholar specializing in Gothic architecture and folklore, she saw the manor not as a haunted ruin, but as a historical anomaly left to rot under layers of superstition. According to surviving records, the last residents of the estate had been a reclusive noble couple and their daughter, Eliza, a fragile gifted girl said to possess an uncanny talent for the piano. She died in her bedroom at 18, found hanging from a beam. The official record listed it as suicide. The unofficial accounts disagreed violently. Some spoke of cruelty, others of confinement, and a few insisted she had not died willingly at all. Within weeks of her death, her parents vanished, and the manor was sealed and abandoned. Isabella arrived at the moor just as the fog began to thicken into a gray, suffocating veil. The air was unnaturally still, as if sound itself hesitated to travel across that stretch of land. Even her footsteps on the old stone path seemed too loud, each scrape echoing farther than it should. When the manor finally emerged from the mist, it did not feel empty. It felt patient. The front doors resisted her at first, swollen from decades of damp, and then gave way with a long, splintering groan that echoed through the entrance hall like something waking up. The smell inside was layered, rot, dust, old fabric, and beneath it all, something faintly metallic and sour. The grand chandelier had collapsed, leaving rusted chains swaying gently in the draft. Broken furniture lay where it had fallen long ago, half consumed by decay, as though time had simply stopped caring about the house but never fully left it. She lit her oil lamp and moved inward, her shadow stretching across the walls in warped, unnatural proportions. The staircase groaned beneath her weight, each step sounding hollow, as if the wood remembered pressure that had not been felt in decades. The corridor upstairs was lined with closed doors, their paint peeled away in strips, revealing old carvings etched into the surface. Not decorative patterns, but scratches, repeated scratches, hundreds of them, layered over one another. At the very end of the corridor, one door stood slightly ajar. A pale light leaked through the gap, thin and colorless, not warm like firelight, not flickering like a lamp. It simply existed. This was the room, Eliza's room. Inside, the air was colder than the rest of the manor. Dust coated everything in a thick, undisturbed film. A bed, a dressing table, and in the corner, a black piano intact, untouched, impossibly preserved. Above, the beam still held a length of rope, stiff with age, yet disturbingly taut, as if it had never once slackened. When Isabella brushed the dust from the piano keys, the chill that ran through her fingers was not merely cold, it was invasive, like touching something that was aware of being touched. A single key depressed under her hand. She had not pressed it. The note rang out, soft and thin. Then another followed, and another. The melody formed slowly, trembling into existence, a sorrowful tune that seemed too deliberate to be random. It was not loud, but it filled the room completely, pressing against the walls, vibrating in the floorboards. The piano bench shifted slightly, rotating a few inches on its own, as though someone had just adjusted their posture. There was no one sitting there. The music continued. Isabella did not speak. She remembered the warning she had once been given, not about the manor, but about places steeped in unresolved death. Do not answer, do not acknowledge, do not listen for meaning. But the melody changed. It became heavier, slower, dragging each note as if burdened by memory. Then, layered beneath the music, a whisper emerged. Not from a single direction, but from the room itself. I did not choose this. The whisper was faint, almost gentle. I was made to stay. The lamp flame flickered violently. The air thickened. The rope above the beam swayed without wind. Something moved beside the piano. Not a sudden apparition, but a gradual distortion. a pale shape forming where shadow and light met. A girl emerged as if stepping forward from a place slightly out of alignment with the room. Her dress was white, but stained along the hem with dark, spreading marks that never reached the floor. Her face was bloodless, her lips an unnatural shade of red, and her eyes were not empty, they were fixed, focused, studying. She did not walk, she drifted. When she spoke again, the voice did not come from her mouth. It came from everywhere at once, layered with the echo of the piano's final note. They said I was weak. They said I should obey. Her head tilted slowly, rope mark visible along her neck like a faded bruise carved too deep to fade. They locked the door. The piano keys depressed violently behind her, one after another, slamming down in chaotic succession. The melody collapsed into dissonant noise. The door behind Isabella creaked shut on its own. I stayed. The voice continued. Softer now. I am still staying. The temperature dropped so sharply that her breath fogged in the lamplight. The girl's figure drew closer, not with speed, but with inevitability. The distance between them seemed to shrink, even when neither of them moved. The lamp dimmed. The rope creaked above. And for the first time, Isabella noticed something she had missed before. Faint indentations in the dust around the piano bench. Footprints, small ones, repeated in the same place, over and over, as if someone had stood there for years without ever leaving. The music stopped. The silence that followed was worse. Then, from directly behind her ear, in a voice no longer sorrowful but quietly certain, "You came because you wanted to understand." A pause. "You understand now." The next morning, villagers crossing the moor claimed they saw the manor's upper window open for the first time in decades. Some said they heard piano music drifting faintly across the fog, slow and precise, played with remarkable skill. Weeks later, when Isabella's belongings were finally recovered from the abandoned entrance hall, her research notes were still neatly stacked. Her journal, however, ended mid-sentence. The final line read, "The music isn't coming from the piano anymore. It's coming from behind me, even when I leave the room." The last page bore a second line, written in a different hand, pressed so deeply into the paper that it tore the fibers. She did not leave. Since then, travelers crossing the moor on heavy fog nights occasionally report hearing a piano from inside the sealed manor, not a sad melody, but a duet. And those who listen closely often insist the second set of notes is slower, hesitant, as if someone unfamiliar with the instrument is still learning to play.